In today's episode of The Paradoxical Human, we delve into a profound and increasingly relevant question. We are living in the age of authenticity. It's a word whispered in podcasts, shouted in self-help books, and perpetually typed into our social feeds. Be yourself, the gurus declare. Find your true self, the algorithms subtly suggest. It's become the holy grail of modern existence, an invisible crown we all strive to wear. We seek it in our relationships, our careers, and perhaps most intensely in the curated spotlights of our digital lives. This audio recording includes subtitles, allowing you to engage with the material more thoughtfully and at your own pace. But here lies the paradox, a whispered irony in the echo chamber of our digital age. What if this relentless pursuit of authenticity, this intense pressure to prove how real we are, actually pushes us further from ourselves? What if the very act of trying to appear genuine transforms our inner truth into a carefully constructed performance, a polished product for public consumption? This isn't just an intellectual curiosity. It cuts to the very core of our well-being. When our authentic self becomes a role we must constantly play, the stage lights can feel less like a spotlight and more like an interrogation lamp. It breeds anxiety, fosters self-alienation, and builds superficial connections that leave us feeling profoundly alone in a crowded digital room. Join us as we pull back the curtain on this modern dilemma. We'll journey through the historical whispers of how we came to value the self, explore the psychological intricate dance between who we are and who we show, confront the societal pressures that turn authenticity into a commodity, and finally, search for a path towards a deeper, less performative kind of truth. The roots of performance. Why we curate. To understand why we perform, we must first confront a disquieting thought. The self we believe is so uniquely ours, so undeniably real, is often a masterpiece of social construction. For centuries, long before the glowing screens of today, human beings have understood that life, in many ways, is a grand theatrical production. Philosophers and sociologists, like Erving Goffman with his brilliant dramaturgical theory, argued that our everyday lives are essentially a series of performances. We are all actors, he suggested, constantly navigating between a front stage, where we present a carefully managed impression to the world, and a backstage, where we can drop our masks and be ourselves, perhaps even practice for the next scene. Think of the diligent employee in a meeting versus the same person at home in sweatpants. Both are real, but they are performing different roles tailored to their audience and context. Historically, this performance was about fulfilling a social role, being a good citizen, a dutiful child, a respectable professional. Your identity was often defined by your position in the collective script. But something shifted. Over time, particularly from the Romantic era onwards, the spotlight began to turn inwards. We moved from performing our social roles to the far more complex task of performing our unique inner self. The authenticity imperative began to bloom, nourished by the seeds of individualism. We grew tired of perceived societal phoniness, the rigid expectations of inherited roles. We craved something more genuine, more true to who we really were inside. This yearning became a powerful cultural force, pushing us to constantly declare, "This is me." Yet this even deepest desire for authenticity is, at its core, deeply human and often driven by ancient psychological currents. We are, at our very root, social creatures. We possess an innate desire for social approval and belonging. This isn't vanity. It's a fundamental need wired into our brains. We want to be seen, to be accepted, to be loved. This leads to what psychologists call impression management, the conscious or unconscious effort to control the impressions others form of us. From dressing well for an interview to choosing our words carefully with a new acquaintance, we are always, to some extent, curating. Furthermore, there's the powerful pull of self-verification. We want others to see us as we see ourselves, or perhaps as we wish to see ourselves. If we identify as kind, we might perform acts of kindness, hoping others affirm that perception. If we see ourselves as intellectual, we might carefully select books or documentaries to discuss. Even if the self we aspire to is an ideal, we seek external validation to cement it. This intricate dance of performance and perception has been supercharged by the digital age. Social media, in particular, has become the world's largest, most demanding stage. Suddenly, our audiences are not just our immediate friends and family, but potentially infinite. Every post, every story, every comment is a public performance, subjected to constant scrutiny. And unlike the nuanced nods or polite smiles of real-life interaction, social media provides concrete, undeniable metrics of validation. The number of likes, the stream of comments, the soaring view counts. These aren't just arbitrary numbers. They are powerful doses of digital dopamine, confirming that our performance is landing, that our curated real self is being accepted. We are trained, almost unconsciously, to optimize for these metrics. The result is the omnipresent highlight reel culture. We present the peak moments, the perfect angles, the enviable experiences. We carefully prune away the mundane, the messy, the true. And then, caught in the endless scroll, we compare our painstakingly edited highlight reel to everyone else's equally polished version. This creates a dizzying hall of mirrors where no one feels truly seen, and everyone feels the mounting pressure to perform, simply to keep up. It's here, in this digital echo chamber, that the paradox of authenticity truly begins to intensify. The paradox deepens when performance undermines authenticity. Here's where the plot thickens, where the very act of seeking authenticity turns into its own cunning trap. We begin with a genuine desire to connect, to share who we are. But in the relentless glare of the digital stage, that desire can subtly, almost imperceptibly, morph into a calculated performance. The line between genuine expression and strategic presentation blurs, becoming as hazy as a backstage smoke machine. Are we sharing an experience, or are we staging it for maximum likes? Are we expressing an emotion, or are we crafting a narrative of emotional depth? This constant vigilance takes a staggering toll. It's the fatigue of being on, the mental and emotional exhaustion of perpetually monitoring and adjusting our self-presentation. Imagine carrying a heavy costume around all day, always aware of how you look, how you sound, how you are perceived. That's the burden of the authenticity performer, a never-ending dress rehearsal for a show that never truly ends. The psychological consequences are profound, reaching into the very architecture of our inner lives. One of the most insidious is cognitive dissonance. This is the uncomfortable mental tension we feel when our beliefs, attitudes, or behaviors clash. When the true self we feel inside doesn't align with the performed self we project outwards, a subtle corrosive conflict begins. We start to live a lie, not to others, but to ourselves. This internal friction can erode our sense of wholeness, leaving us feeling fragmented and uneasy. And what happens when this internal fracture is exposed, or merely threatened with exposure? Enter the shadow of imposter syndrome. If our presented self feels like a polished illusion, a carefully constructed facade, then anxiety whispers, "You're a fake. Any moment, someone will discover the truth." It's the fear that the curtain will drop, revealing not our true self, but merely a less impressive, unscripted version of who we've convinced others we are. We become prisoners of our own highly successful performance. This constant external gaze leads to self-objectification, the unsettling tendency to view ourselves primarily from an external perspective, as if we are the audience watching our own lives unfold. We prioritize how we appear over how we feel, how we are perceived over who we are. Our inner landscape becomes secondary to the outward projection, and our authentic emotions can get lost in the editing room. When everyone on the stage is performing, when every interaction feels like a scene, genuine connection becomes an increasingly rare and precious commodity. Superficial connections are the inevitable outcome. How can true intimacy flourish when we are all wearing our carefully chosen masks, afraid to reveal the unedited, unretouched reality behind them? We might gain a wide audience, but true resonance becomes elusive. Worst of all, the relentless pressure to be authentic ironically creates a new, oppressive should trap. You should be authentic, society dictates. You should live your truth. This imperative, meant to liberate, often weighs us down with another layer of anxiety. Am I authentic enough? Am I doing authenticity right? It's a self-defeating cycle where the pursuit of freedom from societal expectations creates a new, equally demanding expectation. And in this perpetual performance, we lose something vital: spontaneity and experimentation. If every interaction is a calculated scene, we lose the freedom to genuinely react, to stumble, to try on different facets of our personality without fear of judgment or off-brand behavior. We become locked into the character we've built, unable to explore the vast, messy, and truly authentic landscape of who we could be. The stage lights, once so inviting, now feel like a cage. Reclaiming a deeper authenticity. If the outward authenticity we so desperately chase is often just another masterful performance, then what does genuine authenticity truly look like? It's not a perfectly filtered image, nor is it the loud declaration of one's uniqueness. Instead, it's a quiet internal process, a radical act of self-honesty in a world that clamors for performance. True authenticity begins with internal congruence, the profound alignment of our actions with our deepest values and beliefs, even when no one is watching. It's walking your talk in the privacy of your own mind, being the same person when you're alone as you are in front of a crowd. It means that what you do resonates with who you claim to be, and more importantly, who you aspire to be. This congruence is built upon a foundation of deep self-awareness. It's the courageous act of understanding our true motivations, our quiet fears, our messy desires, rather than merely polishing up a desired presentation for the world. It's asking, why do I feel this? What do I truly believe? What do I genuinely want before we even consider what others might think? It's knowing the landscape of your inner world, even its shadowed valleys, without the need for external applause. So, how do we begin this journey back to ourselves? First, through mindful disengagement. This isn't about abandoning the digital world entirely, but about creating deliberate boundaries. It means recognizing when a platform or interaction is pulling you into a performance you don't truly wish to play. It's about consciously choosing when to step away from the stage, allowing your backstage self more room to breathe and simply be. Next, consider embracing vulnerability thoughtfully. This is crucial, not performative vulnerability where we share our struggles for likes or sympathy, but genuine reciprocal sharing within trusted relationships. True vulnerability is the quiet courage to let down your guard with those who have earned your trust, allowing for real intimacy that transcends curated personas. It's about revealing a crack in the facade, knowing that genuine connection is built not on perfection, but on shared humanity. Shift your focus from product to process. Instead of curating a perfect image or a flawless life story, immerse yourself in the richness of genuine experiences. The joy isn't in capturing the perfect photo of your meal, but in savoring the taste. The value isn't in broadcasting your achievements, but in the effort and learning that led to them. Authenticity flourishes not when we're crafting the perfect output, but when we're deeply engaged in the messy, evolving input of living. Crucially, practice self-acceptance. Authenticity isn't about presenting a flawless, idealized self. It's about embracing your wholeness, flaws and all. It's the understanding that your quirks, your past mistakes, your insecurities are all integral parts of who you are. This radical self-acceptance dismantles the need for constant performance because you are no longer trying to hide or edit parts of yourself. Finally, learn to gracefully distinguish between your roles and your core self. We all play many roles in life, as a parent, a colleague, a friend, a student. These are necessary scripts for navigating the world. True authenticity isn't about abandoning these roles, but understanding that they don't define your core identity. You can be a diligent professional in the office and still be your quirky, uninhibited self with close friends. The authentic self is the quiet observer behind the eyes, the consistent thread woven through all your varied performances. It's the enduring spirit that remains when all the costumes are put away. The ongoing journey. We began by unmasking the modern pursuit of authenticity, revealing it to be not a straightforward path, but a winding road fraught with paradox. In a world that constantly demands we be ourselves, we often find ourselves caught in the elaborate performance of curating a real self. This isn't a flaw in us, but a complex interplay of our inherent social nature, historical shifts in identity, and the powerful, pervasive pressures of our digital age. The very stage we seek to be genuine upon can become the cage that limits our true expression. So, where do we go from here? Perhaps true authenticity isn't a fixed destination we arrive at, or a product we finally perfect and present. Instead, it's an ongoing journey of self-discovery, a lifelong conversation between our inner world and our outer actions. It's the quiet commitment to aligning who we are when the stage lights are off with the person we choose to be in the world. It's the courageous act of shedding the masks, not for an audience, but for ourselves, finding freedom in the unedited, unretouched reality of our being. Are you ready to step off the stage, even for a moment, and truly meet yourself? What does authenticity mean to you in a world of constant performance? Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Let's continue this vital conversation.